It was watching television, my sister and I, when we watched the executions. We didn't see it exactly happening, but we knew that it was happening because the news came on suddenly. It got totally dark. It was watching television, my sister and I, when we watched the executions. We didn't see it exactly happening, but we knew that it was happening because the news came on suddenly. It got totally dark outside, like it was going to have a thunderstorm. And my sister and I got up and we closed all the windows, preparing for a big thunderstorm. And a storm never came. And then we decided to turn on the television to catch the latest news. And that's when they announced about the massive execution, and they began to list the names of the men who had been executed. They were all defunct government officials from the previous government that had just been overthrown. And with the exception of one of the men listed, I knew all of the men. I knew them because either through my oldest brothers, perhaps they were friends with them, or we knew each other's families, or I knew their children. I had grown up with their children, gone to parties with them, with their children, or they were friends of my father's. So it was, you can just imagine what a shock it was to learn that they had, not to mention that one of the men executed happened to be a close relative of my mother's. And it was just, imagine the shock to know that they had just tied these men up to poles on the beach and just gunned them down, just executed them because, and the only thing that they were guilty of was being former government officials. That's why they were killed. That's why every one of them was killed. And the executions, the mass executions, occurred on April 22nd, just a week after the dreadful overthrow of the government. It occurred on April 22nd, 1980. So just this past week, while I'm doing this video in the month of April, the last week of April, but it was only last week, April 22nd, that the massive execution occurred 40 years ago. So this month has been just reliving. It has been a month of terror for me and my family because we have been reminded. We are watching the news and the reports that telling us how many lives COVID-19 has taken. And some of them are people that I know. Some of them are people that I've known much of my adult life. And I knew them when I was young, and they have passed away due to COVID-19. So it's, when you look at the comparison, that this is why I'm doing this video, this special video, because it was 40 years ago that we went through such trauma and terror. And then 40 years later, and in the same month, 40 years later, some of the Liberians are losing family members to COVID-19, and those were some of the same Liberians who lived through the April 1980 coup d'etat. So I just could not help but decide to do this video, to share it with you, and to let you know that COVID-19 is a terrorist to the world, but it's not going to last forever. It will go away. And sadly enough, it has taken so many lives, but we are so blessed and grateful, we who have lived through it and are surviving it. And I hope that you will survive it. You will continue to survive COVID-19. Be careful. I also want to share something with you, since we're on the topic of COVID-19 and the social distancing. I personally never liked shaking hands. It has been one of those things that I always felt queasy about, because I will disclose to you that I have something that I have successfully been able to hide for many years, and it's my germaphobia. I am germophobic. I am terrified of germs. Long years ago, when I had to commute to Washington, D.C., within the Washington, D.C. area from Northern Virginia to go to school, to go to work, I wore a surgical mask in the metro and in the commuter bus. I wore a surgical mask many times, especially during flu season, because I was so terrified of contracting germs in the public transportation and bringing home some kind of flu or virus that I shouldn't have been getting. So I was very careful when I went to book signings. When my book was released, I had a problem. My agent knew that, or my PR agent, she knew that handshaking made me queasy. So what she would do is hold the dispenser under the table while I shook people's hands, and right after we finished, she had the hand sanitizer ready to squeeze it, to dispense in my hands, so I could clean my hands until I could get to the ladies' room to use soap and water. So I'm just sharing this with you to let you know that having to wash your hands regularly is something that should come naturally to you. Also, just always making sure that you don't touch your face. Those are things that I always practiced. And wearing surgical masks is not a new thing for me. It's just now that when I have to go out of the house, even to the mailbox, I can put on a surgical mask now. But I didn't have to do that before. I moved around my community without wearing a surgical mask prior to COVID-19. But I just want you to know that it wasn't something new to me, because I did it many years ago in public transportation. So I'm sure that if you continue to do what you're doing right, and you're watching this video, it's because you're well and healthy, and like I am, and you're not in hospital, you're not ill with COVID-19, so you're watching this video, and that means you will continue to do what you've been doing to stay well. And I wish you all the best, And thanks for watching. I hope you will tune in for my next episode, which will be something different. Thank you for watching. Bye.